Hello guys and welcome back to the third of this short UCAT series. This video is going to be all about the UCAT Scratchpad and how you can use it to score even higher this year. Just want to say, if you haven't yet watched my other two videos in this mini-series, then they're in the description down below. I talk about which are the best dates to choose for the exam, but also my own experience when I did the exam quite a few years ago now. Last but not least, I've got around 2 years of study with me videos for the UCAT using the Medify platform, so make sure to check the description down below once again for those videos, because it's really important for you to just understand, how someone else is going through the questions. So as we all know by now, the UCAT consists of 5 main sections: quantitative reasoning, abstract reasoning, verbal reasoning, decision making, and situational judgment. For the sections of quantitative reasoning and abstract reasoning and decision making, we require the ability to use our heads very fast. From thinking on our toes about the structure of arguments to seeing patterns very quickly, to doing mental math rapidly. We need to be able to compute things very quickly. And naturally, when processing lots of information, we tend to write things down. In previous years, the UCAT examiners have provided us with rather difficult to use mini whiteboards or laminated A4 sheets of paper, which you could write on very easily, but then to rub out what you'd written was very difficult. But these were still nevertheless useful for working out things very quickly whilst doing calculations or spotting patterns. The UCAT examiners this year have provided an additional tool, the UCAT Scratchpad. Now, as you can see on screen now, we're looking at Medify's version of the UCAT Scratchpad, which they have incorporated into their question bank. As you know, Medify is one of the leading question banks for the UCAT, so having used Medify myself, this new UCAT Scratchpad that they've incorporated that you'll be able to use in the exam is extremely important to get used to, as it'll allow you to jot important details down using the keyboard and mouse, and even keyboard shortcuts. And this will be particularly useful for quantitative reasoning questions, where you're processing information very quickly. Now, for those of you who have already started preparation, you may have realized in QR that the answer you work out for, let's say, question 1 of a set of questions for a given bit of data can be very useful for answering, let's say, question 4 or 5 in the same set of questions. And so having a tool such as a Scratchpad allows you to quickly type out the answer that you can work out using the UCAT calculator, which you should also get used to. And then by having the answer to the questions typed out, what you can be very sure of is that when you're doing more calculations for later questions in the same set, you can quickly reference to those values that you've worked out beforehand. I think this new Scratchpad feature of the UCAT exam is very useful because switching between the keyboard and mouse and pen and paper takes time. And as you know, the UCAT is a very time-pressured exam. So having an online computerized notepad is very useful for speeding up your workflow. Now, using Medify's platform, the amazing thing is that you can use the UCAT Scratchpad feature they've got now as many times as you need during a UCAT revision. By using the Scratchpad again and again, by repeatedly using it whilst practicing, you become used to using this instead of using pen and paper in the exam, which will therefore allow you to work out answers more quickly, but also keep record of answers that you've worked out using the UCAT calculator. And with the Scratchpad feature that Medify have incorporated into their own revision tools, what you can do is you can use the Scratchpad as many times as you need to whilst revising. Now, the amazing thing about using it many times is that by repeatedly using it, you become very familiar with the layout of the Scratchpad, but also all the shortcuts that you can use with the Scratchpad. This will make sure that when it actually comes to the exam, you are now far more used to the different tools they give you. Now, some of you may be thinking, is this UCAT Scratchpad actually going to be useful, like the UCAT calculator? You can change the size of the Scratchpad window to suit what you want, how big you want it, how small you want it, and also the more things you have jotted down, you can make it bigger to see quickly more things that you've written down. Or if you've only got a few different things written on there, you can make it much smaller. You can also drag and reposition it, making it more convenient, but also it's really important that you understand what you can and cannot do with the Scratchpad, just like with the UCAT calculator that you're getting used to. You can copy and paste stuff within the Scratchpad itself, but the only limitation is that you can't actually copy stuff from the question or from diagrams into the Scratchpad. So once you write something down in the Scratchpad, you can very easily copy paste or manipulate that. One of the big setbacks of the Scratchpad is that it doesn't contain a drawing function. So this does sort of make it quite difficult to solve questions like Venn diagrams. The next thing is that the Scratchpad won't be as intuitive as using whiteboard or pen and paper. So although I'm promoting the Scratchpad, for some questions you might be better off using pen and paper. So by learning the Scratchpad, you're just giving yourself a tool that you could use, but not necessarily will use for every single question. Last but not least, the online Scratchpad will be an unfamiliar experience for everybody. So if you could utilize the Scratchpad and use it to maximize your score, whilst other students are not using the Scratchpad and not using it to its full benefit, then although the masses find it difficult to use, you could still excel. So the really important part is that you get used to the Scratchpad during your practice. Find how you can use it usefully, for what sort of questions is it useful, and for what sort of questions is it not useful. So it's really important to understand how it is useful for you and how it works for you. So I really recommend that you go to Medify. If you're not already using Medify as part of your revision, then the links are in the description down below. But go to Medify and use the Scratchpad feature for mock questions and mock tests and the question bank, just to get even better at the UCAT. Remember, the UCAT is an exam where you've got to maximize the use of the tools that you've been given, whilst also practicing as much as you can in a clever way that allows you to understand the patterns of the question, but also allows you to identify what you need to do in each question type as quick as possible so that you can nail every single question, or as many questions as possible. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to Medify for making this video possible, but also to Medify for being one of the major, fantastic resources out there to help us score better in the UCAT. So thank you once again, and I'll see you guys soon in the next video.